Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, Black Men Taking Charge of Our Health. Thank you all for joining us today, and especially a big thanks to our sponsors who make this work possible for us. As many of you know, April is National Minority Health Month, and this is an annual observance that builds awareness about the health disparities that persist among racial and ethnic minority and American Indian, Alaska Native populations, and encourages everyone to take action to end these inequities. Although cancer incidence and mortality overall are declining in all U.S. population groups, some groups continue to be at increased risk of developing or dying from certain cancers. According to the NCI, some key cancer incidence and mortality disparities in the U.S. include Black people have higher death rates than all other racial ethnic groups for many, although not all cancer types. Despite having slightly lower incidence rates of breast cancer than those of white women, Black women are more likely than white women to die of the disease. Although deaths from prostate cancer have dropped substantially in recent decades among all men, Black men are more than twice as likely as white men to die of prostate cancer and continue to have the highest prostate cancer mortality rates among all U.S. racial and ethnic groups. American Indians, Alaska Natives have higher death rates from kidney cancer than any other racial group. Many studies have shown that a major driver of these disparities is the interconnected set of social risk factors, including lack of access to healthy foods or to enough food, unstable or unsafe housing, transportation challenges, persistent poverty, racism, and other forms of discrimination. NCCS works on policy efforts to address health equity and reduce disparities in outcomes. The problem of health equity is complex, as some of the factors that lead to inequity are deeply rooted in social determinants of health and systemic and institutional barriers. Many of the policies that would improve access to care would contribute to reducing these disparities. The Affordable Care Act, including its expansion of Medicaid, has reduced disparities in access to care and mortality rates compared to states that chose not to expand Medicaid. In addition to our policy efforts, many of NCCS's Elevate ambassadors are working on health equity projects in their communities, and I encourage you to look at our website to see what some of those are. So with all of that background, I'm really excited to introduce our panelists today. Lisa Rice is an influential advocate for multiple causes, including quality cancer care, women's health and empowerment, and palliative and hospice care. She's a political strategist and social media activist. And lucky for us at NCCS, she also happens to be vice chair of our board of directors. And today, Lisa will interview Lamont Mitchell, a Washington, D.C. resident and prostate cancer survivor who recently founded an organization called Know Your Numbers to educate Black men about taking charge of their health. So this is such an important topic, and we're really excited to be able to share this story and hear from you, Lamont, about your story so that we can hopefully educate more men in our community to get screened. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Lisa. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Elena. I'm so glad to be here. Welcome, Lamont, and you're now a part of the NCCS family. So welcome to the family.
Thank you.
I'm really, really happy that you want to share your time with us today. Your story is vital to the community. And so, let's just get into it. I'd like to start with your cancer diagnosis. If you could walk us through your diagnosis and treatment at whatever level, 10,000 foot level or ground level, however you'd like to do that. And on the other side, we'll get into some other questions.
Well, thank you. First, let me thank you for inviting me and this very, very important discussion, and it's the story of my life at this particular point. And let me just start from the beginning. I've lived all my life in Washington, D.C., but I've traveled to 100 countries and did a lot of good stuff. And I've also have thought I had really, really good health. I mean, I thought I was doing well. I'm 68 years old, and I've never been to the hospital overnight, and never I don't even think I've been to the emergency room but once in my life, and I've never taken medication a day in my life. Occasional, maybe antibiotic. So I'm thinking I'm living this great life. I walk 5 miles a day. I play tennis and whatever have you, and I go and get regular checkup. But because of COVID, everything was sort of slowed down and backed up, and it's probably 2 to 3 years before doctors would see you on the regular basis for a checkup. So I went to visit my doctor, Dr. Gupta, which is an amazing young woman, and everything was good. And then she said to me, and when it was time to go back after the blood work, she said, well, I want to see you and come in. So she went over the blood work and everything was fine. She said, well, we got this one little problem we need to talk about. And I'm saying, what's the problem? And she tells me that my PSA is 27. And I'm saying, okay, I know it's supposed to be lower than that, but what that means? And she said, this doesn't sound good at all. I mean, it's not good at all. We got to get you into a urologist and to see what's going on, because 27 is in a very dangerous category. In fact, 27 past 20 speaks of metastasis. And so we need to we don't know, but we got to find out. And so I went on my journey after being shocked of hearing that I might possibly have cancer. Was a shocking, I mean, it was like a gut punch. And I'm saying, what happened? I'm good. All my numbers are good. I've lived a great life. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't do drugs. Never in my life. What happened? Okay, so we go on to the first visit was to a local urologist, and we get another test, and then we get a dextro exam, and then we said, well, we got to set you up for MRI. Had the MRI, and then it came back with some 5 pyrids and whatever have you. And then, so next thing we got to do, we got to get a biopsy. And so then I'm taking a biopsy, and I get a biopsy, and it comes back with an aggressive form of cancer, which was probably, it had some 4 and 5s in it. So it was like, okay. And then he said something that just knocked me to my feet. My foot was, okay, now that we got the biopsy, we need to schedule you for surgery next week. And I'm saying, whoa, ho. And I wasn't really feeling the clinic too much, because when I went to the clinic, it was, I went to the clinic, and I went to the waiting room, and it was about 30 old guys. And I like to think that I'm young for some reason, whatever have you. And I look at guys my age, and I don't think I look like them. I don't know why that's the case with, you don't think you look as old as the person that you are. But they was all sitting around, and they all looked like they was just there. I mean, with blank stares, and I've never lived my life like that. So I said, no. Well, I'm going to get a second opinion. In fact, she subscribed some ADT for me, said, we got to start this right away. And I said, well, let me just see about getting a second opinion. So now I'm beginning to voraciously read everything I can find up about prostate cancer. I mean, everything. I'm absorbing 3-4 hours a day. I'm up in the middle of the night. I'm on blogs. I'm on websites. And I'm just finding out everything I can find out. So I'm finding out some really, really good stuff. And well, it doesn't mean the death sentence that it might have meant 10 years ago or 15 years ago, that people are living longer with this, and the treatment are just phenomenal now. And so I said, but I don't like the bedside manners of this particular clinic, and I need to search for a second opinion. And so I did my work, and I said, where is the best place that handles this thing on the East Coast? And let me see if I can get a second opinion from them. So I did. I looked at Hopkins, I looked at Georgetown, and really great institutions with this. And I decided on Sloan Kettering, and I cold called Sloan Kettering. No referral, no nothing. I'm here. I want to get a second opinion. They said, fine, send us the information. So I packaged up and had my doctor send up all the information from the MRI, the biopsy to Sloan. And then they said, you can come up, and then we will have a series of 3 appointments for you with 3 different things: a medical oncologist, radiologist, and a surgeon. And they each would talk to you about your case in terms of what your options are at this particular time. Well, I like that. So I went up there. I spent about 45 minutes with each person, which I thought was great. They took their time. They explained everything to me. And they said that what they do at Sloan was to take all the records, but they don't take them at face value. They reevaluate all of your test scores. They just do everything over as if it's raw material that they're getting. And so when I was there, he said, yeah, you know, the guy says Gleason 4-5, which is 9, which is very aggressive, but that's not the case at all. It's Gleason 4-3, which is 7, which offers you a whole cadre of different options for this treatment. It's not, you know, it's not where 4-5 is very aggressive and they want to give you some chemo and some other stuff, that you have other things. And so that went on, and it took me approximately 8 months from the time I was diagnosed in April to the time I finished my treatment, 8 to 9 months. And I did it in New York, and I had a brachytherapy, and I did 5 courses of SBRT, proton therapy, which is the latest and the greatest, supposedly. And I did a 6 months course of ADT, and phenomenal. It was phenomenal. They took great care of me. They provided transportation for me to come to New York. They provided hotel and whatever have you. So very little out-of-pocket costs. I'm on Medicare. So Medicare provided this particular service, and they covered a lot of this cost. As you know, cancer medicine can be very expensive. The ADT I was on is $2,000 a month. I can't afford that, you know. But I wanted the best, and I wanted, and because when I went to talk to them, I had such a, I knew how to at least have a conversation about treatment plans, options, and what could have you. And it made a world of difference on the way they talk to you or talk to me, or they became a partner in my healthcare because I was invested in my healthcare. I knew what the science was. I knew what NIH studies was. And in fact, we ended up doing a MARC study, a trial that was done by Dr. Gorovitz in New York, that was offered a short course of ADT along with all the other with proton therapy and with brachytherapy. So I marked that trial, and then the deal is that if somebody fall out the trial, my information would go in the trial, even though I wasn't officially in the trial. He runs the trial. He was my doctor, and I marked that particular trial. So far so good. Now it's just a set wait and see game. My first follow-up appointment is in June. Hopefully, I'm looking for a good outcome, and we'll see what happens from there. But as with all cancers, it's a wait and see game. There's always a chance of reoccurrence, and so you're trying to do the things you can to lessen that from happening.
Yeah. Okay, so amazing. I know I'm not the only one to say that. I want to go back to something that you said earlier. You know, we know that a vast majority of cancer patients don't seek a second opinion. You told us a little bit about that. If you could explain a little more, because I think so many people don't want to seek a second opinion. They don't want to upset their doctor or whatever. Talk a little bit more, if you will, about that feeling that made you say, nah, I need to go someplace else.
Yeah, well, and I think it's so vitally important. And in my studies, in my research and whatever have you, that you seek and if you have a doctor who don't think it's a good idea to have a second opinion, you probably don't want to have that doctor, because if what he's doing is and a lot of times they do what they know, and they have favorite treatments that they do, and that's fine. But it can confirm that what these doctors are saying is right and appropriate treatment and of standard of care, or it could say maybe we could do something different. And also the risk tolerance in terms of being invested in our own health is that you get to make some decisions on terms of what you're willing to do at your quality of life, which is very much a part of cancer at all, because there are things that will decrease your quality of life, and ADT is one of those things that can really decrease a man's quality of life. So you got to make some decision determination. So I was determined to get a second opinion, whether it was my second choice was Hopkins, and if I couldn't get into Sloan. And I think that it is so important that we, as African American men, look at center of excellence, these cancer center of excellence, because it's a whole nother level of discussion. It's not a discussion around money or whether you can pay. It's about they're committed to, to solving the problems of cancer. And I went to Sloan and I was just blown away. They have a whole hospital that's just dedicated to prostate cancer. I mean, it's a whole building that somebody donated, $152 million, $200 million to just study prostate cancer. And there's other great places like Mayo and MD Anderson, a whole bunch of other great places of center of excellence, and NIH also lists center of excellence and encourage people to try to get second opinions from center of excellence, because it might make a difference in terms of the treatment plan or some options, or it might confirm what you already heard. But people generally don't want to, because cancer is scary enough. When somebody hears cancer, they shut down. I mean, I literally could not sleep for 3 days because it's like, wow, I did all this stuff to take care of my health, and I get to be 65, 67 years old and catch cancer. And I'm going through those stages of grief and whatever have you. But it's just the hand you dealt with. And, and I'll talk about this later, but, we talk about the BRCA genes, and my mother had died of breast cancer. Some of these things you're just going to get. You can probably lessen them or slow them down a little bit, but they're sort of in your DNA. So you might have them. So you want to catch them quickly as possible. And I think that a second opinion will help you better decide to say, okay, yeah, this is the treatment I want to do. And I know I'm on the right page because everybody's saying the same thing. They're sort of saying the same thing, as opposed to one person saying, if I would have just took the guy who had been in surgery, and I would have messed out on opportunity to look at some other ways to deal it besides surgery with the side effects of surgery.
I think that is such an important story to tell, because sometimes not sometimes, all the time, receiving a cancer diagnosis is like we're deer in the headlights. What? Wait, who? Me? What? Cancer? Wait. And so to have that presence of mind once you're past that initial shock and realize I do need a second opinion. And so I really thank you for sharing that perspective. It's also one that I share, and it's really important. I want to talk about this clinical trial, and you referred to it as a mock clinical trial. And I have a quote from an interview I want to read. You said, "There is a critical need for more Black men to participate in medical research." Tell me a little bit about why you decided to participate in the mock trial. What does that mean? And in your opinion, how can we get more Black cancer patients to participate in trials?
Well, yes. One of the things I did in my research during the time between biopsy, MRI and biopsy, was to visit their NIH website. And there they list all the trials that they fund. They got a whole list of things. You put in there, I got prostate cancer. Here's the trials that we come. So I went down and I said, okay, I have these particular numbers, 27, T3, this. I'm in pretty good shape. I could qualify for this trial. So when I went to get in the trial, which was at Sloan, I went to Sloan first, and then I knew they were doing the trial. And I said, well, I'd love to talk to Dr. Gorovich to get into the trial. And he said, yeah, let's see what happens. So they talked to Dr. Gorovich, and he said the trial was full. I could, you could wait, and somebody drop out, you could drop in. But what I decided to do, I said, well, can I mark this trial? And mark the trial, can I follow the trial, the protocol, the standard of care that you're doing in this particular trial? Can I do that? And they said, no, I don't see any problem with that. And so what I did was, and then it turned out that Dr. Gorovich was my doctor, became my doctor, because I wanted proton and he does proton. And so everything that he's doing in his trial, I did that like him. And so my numbers are there. And so what will probably happen if somebody drops out the trial, I could go into the trial because he has all my numbers. He did everything according to the trial standard. So you can mark a trial, even though you're not in it. You can say, okay, I just want to do everything that trial does. And that's coming apart. That's one of the part about knowing what's going on, knowing the trials, and I agree with you 100%. We do not, as African American men, participate in the trials as much because the trials are testing new medicine. It's not only medicines, it's the way things do. And they say, okay, in this particular trial, the only thing that was different was instead of doing 18 months of ADT, which could cause some long-lasting and permanent effects to your body, is that they're trying to see whether if you do the short course, 6 months, would it make any difference? And so they're doing that. And it's not the first one to do it, but this is in stage 2 trial, phase 2 of the study. And a lot of other people have said that shorter courses of ADT is just as effective as 18 months without the long-term side effects. If you stay on ADT over a year, you can do a lot of stuff because it depletes your body of testosterone. And then the estrogen that we have as males, presents itself like, you grow breasts as men and all this kind of stuff because your body will lose hair because you only have estrogen as opposed to testosterone. So it was to mark. So I marked the trial, but more men, because the more African American men that are in trial, the medicines that's come out of those trials would then be geared towards both African American men, which normally have a more aggressive form of the disease, and African American women in terms of triple negative threat of breast cancer too. That's a real big issue because usually when we get these things, it's more aggressive, and so we need to be involved in these trials. And if there is, because we have aggressive, there are trials with people with metastasis. There's great new medicines that they're doing with metastasis. Metastasis is not even the issue it was 5 years ago. And so if somebody could get into a trial and hang around for 5 years, there might be brand new medicines that will, they got one that's called Luprin 777 it's intravenously and goes in your body and find every bit of the trace of the prostate cancer in your body and killed it through an IV injection. So they got a lot of stuff coming on, and we do have the majority of progressive cancers. If we get involved with some of these things, not only would it help us, but it would help other Black men as well.
Well, look, Lamont, I was already converted, but I'm sure there are people that are listening to you that you have now converted. I love the fact that you were able to mock that, and I have not heard that term, so I learned something new today. Yay! So I get to keep on living another day. So thank you for that. And we were talking a little bit about numbers, so this is a perfect time to segue into your organization. Tell us about Know Your Numbers DC, and why you decided to start that.
Great. I thought that, okay, I'm going to go, and I did something funny. When I was first diagnosed, I wanted to share my journey. And what I did was every doctor's appointment, I had everything. I had MRI, I had biopsy, I had PSMA test, I had bone scan, you name it. I had everything. I had genomic testing. Hopefully you get a chance to talk about this later. I had like 5 tests. They just testing everything. And which is the medicine is so great now, because now when you get all of these things, you can then make a better decision on your treatment. So I literally recorded all of my sessions and talked about how I was feeling afterwards, because I was going to put it all together and produce, and I still might do that. But I wanted to share my journey. And then, so I made a decision that once my journey was complete, and I think you were at the meeting where I basically announced it, once my journey was complete, that I would publicly announce that I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. Here's what happened. Here's what I did. Here's what I'm going to do to help. And I work with a really great organization, the Intercultural Coordinating Council, which I serve as chair of the board, and Philip Pennell is executive director. And we decided to collaborate, and they are my community partners, along with Martha's Table and the American Diabetes Association, to start an organization that I call Know Your Numbers DC. And this program is to help African American men to know their numbers on these big issues: heart disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, you name it, and prostate cancer. And if you really look at it, these are first cousins: diabetes, heart disease, and prostate cancer are first cousins. Most Black men who have prostate cancer is probably most likely to have diabetes as well. And most Black men who have prostate cancer is even more likely to die of heart failure than the prostate cancer. It's a slow disease. So we want to know what those numbers are. We want to encourage men to get tested. And how do we do this? We do it by information gathering, sharing. We do it by seminars and webinars. We do it by going out in the community and testing African American men. We do it by PSAs, whatever have you. But anything we can to encourage men to know their numbers. In fact, I have a friend of mine who said to me, his conversation with men when he meets his friends, he asks them, "What's your numbers?" And they say, "What do you mean, what's my numbers? What's my lottery numbers?" No. What's your numbers? And so it's a great way to start a conversation for anybody, really. And so, I'm talking about your PSA numbers. What's your AC1 number? And they say, "Well, I don't know that." Well, those numbers are important. And we are encouraging women. You meet a nice guy, he looks like he's in great shape. Instead of asking what his credit score number is, ask him what his health numbers are, because his health numbers are more important than his credit score. Because if he's not around to provide for you, it's no good at all. So, and we want to encourage men to do this. Information sharing, we want to do things as what to eat. We write a series of stories and what to eat if you have cancer, what type of food to eat. And then we want to go further than that, because we know that prostate cancer is a devastating disease on the family. A lot of people break up and get divorced because of this. Men's whole life is around their virility, their stamina to be a man, and now you take that from him, and now he has a problem. His self-esteem is gone. He's depressed, and his woman or his partner is gone. So we want to deal with those issues and bring men and women together and talk about these very sensitive issues that affect Black men and women and families. We want to talk about and develop a plan where we want to start something we call like cooking for my partner. So we know we got to change up what some of the things we eat, because some of these things feed the cancer, whatever the cancers may be, it feeds them. And so we want to do some things that would help and get those things that are full of antioxidants and whatever have you, eat more of those fruits and vegetables and less with meats and some other things, and get our fiber in the temple. So we want to have cooking classes that will show and teach partners how to prepare meals for their partner, and so that they can help them and become, and women, and God bless women, they want to be with these guys. But I'm telling you, I read stories all the time. I'm on my group chats, and these guys they're catching hell, because it's a crazy disease that affects the way they feel about themselves and their self-esteem. Sort of like if we were women who had a mastectomy, and you know how that might feel to a woman in terms of her femininity, her idea of a woman. And so all of these things are very, very real. And so we want to have a group, we want to have a place where you could come and talk about these issues, learn about these issues, and help your partner. And I'm sorry to getting upset, but I just believe this.
Lamont, you are amazing, and your love for yourself, your family, your community. You're such a great role model. And I appreciate you. Oh my goodness. You're just, I've got goosebumps right now. And you are just amazing, Lamont. You really are. And everything, every word you've uttered today, and we're not done yet. So take a deep breath. But everything you say is getting through to people who are listening. And even if they think, and you and I know people who think it won't be me, even if they think it won't be me, they're going to tell somebody, oh, I was on this webinar today and I heard so-and-so say. They'll reach other people. So I appreciate everything you're saying. I have a couple more questions. I want to encourage people to put questions in the chat, but I still have a couple more questions for you, Lamont, before we get to questions from the audience. If I can, I'd like to read an excerpt from the American Cancer Society's statement on prostate cancer screening. You and I have talked a little bit about this before. Mm-hmm. They say no major medical organization presently endorses routine screening for men at average risk because of concerns about the high rate of overdiagnosis, detecting disease that would never have caused symptoms or harm, especially given the potential for serious side effects associated with prostate cancer treatment. However, because prostate cancer is a leading cause of cancer death in men, many organizations recommend shared decision-making, whereby men are educated about the benefits and harms of PSA screening and encouraged to make a personal choice. So can you talk about your views, Lamont, on shared decision-making and your personal choice, which you talked about some, but with regard to the statement and why you chose to get screened?
Yeah, I think this is one of those things that really makes sense on some level, because a lot of times the treatment is worse is worse than the cure. You go in and you have a little bit of, because it is a slow growing cancer. It's just amazing that that a cancer at 2 centimeters started 7 years ago, a lot of times in prostate cancer. So it's a slow growing cancer. And a lot of times, and I think the statistics show us that 80 to 90% of postmortem African-American men find prostate cancer in some form. It might be low, 6.6, might be low, which is not even really cancer anymore, but it might be low, but we all suffer. It's just, we have to be careful because it's a game that we cannot afford to play. And I say that when I mean this is that because we get diagnosed late in the game, Black men that's why our death rate, mortality rate is higher for Black men, because we get diagnosed late. And this is something that if you get diagnosed early, there's almost 100% chance you can be cured from this cancer. But if you wait and your numbers are in the hundreds and it's metastasized, it's the writing is on the wall. So I do appreciate the fact that there is some overdiagnosis with prostate cancer. And like anything else, people, it's the whole adage behind surgery in prostate cancer. Surgeons want to do surgery, so they're going to recommend surgery. So right. When there are others, and I don't blame them. That's what they do best. That's what they know. But I just think that Black men, particularly, and I'll talk about this, particularly if there's a history of cancer, the brother, the father, the uncle, the mother in their family cannot afford to not waiting on this test. We have to be proactive in our testing. And if we find that it is there, treat early, because if you treat 6.6, 3.3, and 3.4 are just basically, they're curable. But when you start getting into those higher Gleason numbers and higher PSA numbers and metastasis, the mortality rate goes down dramatically. So I think that as Black men, my son was now 45, I'm encouraging to get tested at 40, but now so definitely at 45, given that his grandmother and his father had cancer. And one of the things I talked about earlier is that in genomic testing, we're able to identify some of these traits early on. And I did a Decipher test, and the Decipher test is able to project 7 years in the future in terms of based on this gene, the BRCA gene 1 and the BRCA gene 2, and which was found, and it showed up. It showed up in my genes, and my mother had died of breast cancer. So we can't. It's a fight that we can't fight. Some things just ain't for it. We have to be tested, and if it's great, go on with your life, because so many people are not effective when they have great scores. They can do things to make sure it stays down, and the PSA is fine. But we have to be tested and then go on about, as opposed to not getting tested at all. And of course, we know after 60s, in the 60s, it's a decision, a shared decision. Do you want to be tested for this or whatever have you? Because, and after 70, basically, if you don't have symptoms of prostate cancer, they don't even really want to offer you a test. And in fact, the insurance companies don't even want to pay for it, because they're saying that anybody with less than quote unquote 15 years to live, that they probably can figure their way out with, if they don't have a high number now, they don't get involved with this. But that's an issue, and that's a real concern, because the average lifespan of African American, particularly in America, is 67 years. And so, we're talking about later years, and a lot of time we don't even get to that point. And so we want a chance to get to 80 and 85, and if we can get help on some low score. But it can be, and it is an issue of overtreatment with prostate cancer, and it starts with overdiagnosing and cancers that are very low growing, and then they still treating people, because a lot of times if there's a Gleason 3-3 and somebody said, "Oh my God, Daddy got cancer," and then the family said, "Daddy, you got cancer, you got to do something about it, whatever have you. You don't want the cancer in your body, whatever have you." They might, a 3-3 would probably, it take 30 years for it to get into something bad, but then they want to do something about it, and that's how some of the overtreatment comes about.
Yeah. I have two more questions for you, but I know people have questions that are going in the chat and so forth. But the last two questions that I have for you, what is the one thing you want Black men and those who love them to know about dealing with cancer? So if you could pick one thing, what's that one thing?
Well, I want them to know that it doesn't have to be a death sentence.
Okay.
It doesn't. A lot of times just the attitude about cancer can kill us. If you wear it, and if you put it out there in an atmosphere, it could really change your whole way of life if you stop doing things. But it doesn't have to be the end. It doesn't have to be. My mom was in remission for 12 years, and she had an amazing life during those 12 years. And she basically decided when it came back, she didn't want any more treatment. And I'll never forget the time, but it's probably the conversation I had with her that making me do the work I'm doing now, because I was with her in the Washington Hospital Center, and she said to me, the doctor said to me, "It's pretty bad. We can do some aggressive radiation, chemotherapy, whatever have you." And I said to the doctor, "There's nothing wrong with my mama's mind. You tell her this. You tell her this." So we gathered the doctors around, and they said what they said. They said, "Here's the deal. If you don't take treatment, you might have another 6 months to live." And she said to me, "I'm good. I'm good." She said, "I don't want to go through it again." And I brought her home with me in this house that I'm in now, and she died here in peace, and she was happy with her decision. But I'm thinking back on it now. She knew her numbers.
Yes.
And she decided, and that's all I'm asking anybody to do. Know your numbers. If you decide you don't want to do this, don't do it. But don't have a lack of knowledge. And because if you know your numbers, you can make a decision on what you want to do with your health.
Yeah. And that flows right into my final question is, Lamont, what do you want your legacy to be?
Well, I want it to be that exactly what the pastor at the Salvation Army said. I read your story. I heard your story. I got tested. No more, no less. If I can encourage Black men to be tested, to take control of their decisions on their health, I think I've done my job.
Well, you are doing an amazing job. And I thank you so much. And we're going to, and look, me, like, not the queen of technology at all. I'm going to try and find where the question, where the questions are hiding. Somebody help me find the questions. Oh, here we go.
Sorry, Lisa. One of the first ones we have is, what are some ways to address the medical mistrust that is common among Black men?
Absolutely, a wonderful, wonderful question. You know, we had all this stuff with the Tuskegee Institute, Tuskegee study, and whatever have you. And men are less likely, and I don't think it's a lack of availability to health, particularly where I work this side of town. A lot of people are qualified for free health care, so they just there is some. I would say very few people don't have health options. And I think that some of the people who have health options or limited health options are people who are actually working, who have maybe very bad, bronze plans or silver plans that don't cover a lot. And then that might make a decision in terms of whether they seek care because they have to pay such a high copay. But for the most part, most people don't. And I think that we have to get beyond that. The stereotype of, oh, remember that I'm afraid they're going to do something to me. And a lot of times it's not even rational. It's just irrational and we have to know our body and listen to our bodies. And I think our families could encourage us more. I know one thing that I have a lovely daughter in Atlanta, and she can almost get me to do anything she want me to do. I mean, she said, my boys, not so much. Yeah, I'm not listening to them, but my daughter, I will. And I think our children and our family members have to encourage us to take control of our health and not sit back and wait to like it's a car. We're not, and I like to look at our health as like the warning light on the car. When the warning light comes on, it tell you, there's a problem with this car. And if you keep driving this down the road, you're gonna have a bigger problem. And so when that warning light come on, we should take and look at what we need to do. It affects, and I think that we have to encourage men by some means to begin to take control of their own life, because it's a double win for everybody. If you got a strong man in the house, then he's going to be able to take care of his family a little bit more. A sick man can't take care of his family. So I think we need to encourage it by modeling and testimonies and people encouraging people. And we need a major campaign of encouraging Black men to get out of, a lot of Black men talk about the digital exam in prostate cancer, and you can go through and get tested without even doing the digital exam now. It's one of those things like, oh, okay, you don't like that, we can do something else. We didn't have to do that. So we got to get away from the social stereotypes of those type of things that's associated with prostate cancer. But we have to somehow reach Black men, African American men, to take part in their health and to seek medical attention.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Lamont, another question that's come in, and someone said, thank you for sharing. They want to know, were you educated about prostate cancer before your diagnosis? I heard about the days afterwards, but tell us a little bit about what you knew before.
I knew absolutely nothing about. I didn't even know what a Gleason score was. I knew what a PSA was because they talk about that sometime. I knew nothing. The day I was in almost a year ago today, when I was in my doctor's office and they said 27, I didn't even know what 27 meant per se, in terms of, because I knew, and I later found out you can have a PSA of 5,000. So if you can have 5,000, 27 can't be that bad. Well, the way these numbers work, it's very bad. But I knew nothing. But I went on a journey. I went on a journey of discovery and learning, and just, I mean, vivaciously anything I could find, from NIH websites to groups that talk about prostate cancer on a daily basis, to looking at other institutions, uh, comments about prostate cancer, and I learned what it was that I was dealing with. And I'm a firm believer that you should know almost as much as your doctor know about your disease, because doctors know a lot about a lot of diseases. But if you should know just as much as he know, if you are going to be a participant in your health. If you don't know, you can just take what somebody tell you. But if you know, you'll be able to, ask the right question and make a joint. It's always better when you make a joint decision, because you're very, very clear of where you're going to go, what you're going to do, and you'll be more committed. If somebody tell me, "Oh, just take these pills," if I take the pills and the pills make me sick, I may not take the pill no more. But if I understand the value of taking the pill, and I'm invested in my health, and we are co-partners in that, I'm also invested in the outcome.
Many more questions coming in. Another one, some are associated with the age. They're talking about how old should we be when we start thinking about our numbers, and the numbers that you were talking about, PSA, A1C. I mean, I know that, blood pressure, everybody should know their blood pressure all the time, but maybe you can talk about what your experience has been with PSA. And you mentioned you have a 45-year-old son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's recommended. It was recommended one time that a son in my situation should start testing around 40, 45. Normally it's 50. They start testing for PSA levels, because this is an old man's disease. But young and younger men are now being affected. There are people in their 40s and 50s with full-blown prostate cancer. And if there is, that's why you got to know your family history. You got to know, you got to ask your grandma, where you were born. Yeah, but grandma, what did you have? What did your granddaddy have? What diseases did he have? Because those diseases will affect you. If you should know these things. And so I think that we should be conscious of our health. We should we have our regular physical. And if you are a Black man, you should not only that, be committed to keeping one of the biggest issues, again, with these morbid diseases is weight, overweight, and out of shape, and not exercising. And those things lead to adverse outcomes with these morbidities. We have to begin to take better care of ourselves, but we have to test on a regular basis. You got to get your physical. You got to, and if you're over 45 or 50, you got to test for your PSA. Every 3 or 4 years or whatever have your doctor recommend. But you got to stay on top of that. And if you have some additional situation where your parents or your siblings or your father or your uncle have it, you got to test a little more often to stay on top of it.
Yeah, that's good. Let's you talked about your mother's journey with cancer, and how did that impact your decision making, or direct your choices during your cancer journey, which you're still on?
Yes. You don't end this. You had prostate cancer. You're gonna die with prostate cancer. The only thing you're doing is you might be in remission, but it's nobody. You keep your badge. You don't quit this job. you keep it. My mom. I saw what my mom went through, and I saw the dignity and grace in which she handled herself. And I love my mom so much. She was my heart. I talked to her every day of my life. Even if I was traveling, I talked to my mom every day. So we had a great relationship. And I just think the way she handled it, because you would not really knew my mom had breast cancer, because she still lived her life. I mean, she still lived her life. She didn't feel sorry for herself. She didn't do anything. So I learned dignity and grace in adversity, and And I think that that's part of the attitude is so important that you're gonna have to, you're only human. You're gonna cry. You're gonna have sad times, but you're gonna have to take this thing and understand that it's a mind over matter situation. And if you're gonna have some good outcomes, you got to have a good mindset.
Yeah, it sounds like your mother had a wonderful mindset, and obviously you carry that with you. One of the other questions that has come in, and it goes back to something that you said about men's attitudes, Black men's attitudes about their roles, and you say, talk about a strong man, and someone said it makes them think of men's pressure to project strength. So can you talk about the importance of the emotional wellness for Black men who may struggle to ask for help?
Yeah, that is an issue. That's a two-part issue too, because even with prostate cancer, it's such a debilitating disease as it relates to manhood and prowess. It's just, I mean, for a guy who's been macho or just whatever, and to be reduced to not being able to function within his family or his partner like he has, it has its toll. It has its toll. And so I think that's why we have to have spaces for for men to come, to sit around the circle and understand and let them know that you're not by yourself. There are men who are going through this and who have mastered this and come out the other side of this, and it's not the end. And I think that we have to provide that space for African American men, because if we don't, that's going to affect the whole family. You follow me?
Right.
The man's attitude, and men are, they don't want to project weakness. You follow me? They want to project strength, and so we just got to get that space so they can become whole and healed again. And I think that, and we got to understand that we're not invincible. Nobody's invincible. We all have frailties and have to deal with situations that comes up in our life, but somehow we got to make space, and we got to have space within the family for father to hurt as well.
Yeah, yeah. I just want to mention, a lot of people wanted to know more about your group and how to get brochures. And so we have something in the chat, how to connect with Know Your Numbers DC, knydc.com, and something's in the chat. We have about 5 more minutes. I'm going to try to find one last question. So many. Someone said that they loved what you said about diagnosis is not a death sentence. She's a 17-year breast cancer survivor. She says she tells people who are diagnosed that the diagnosis is not a death sentence. It's a license to live. I love that.
Yeah. I like to call it prostate cancer is a speed bump on the road to a great life, and not the brick wall.
Okay. I love that. I love that. There is one other question I think I can get to very quickly. And it's back with the talking about the family. How can a wife support her husband who is a prostate cancer survivor regarding intimacy?
That is a big issue, and that's one of the things we want to do. We want to bring those groups together, because this is a major issue that people don't talk about. The husband was diagnosed with prostate cancer, and he stopped speaking. He went into a shell and been in the shell, and then the woman is left frustrated, and she won't talk to him. I mean, he won't talk to her. It's a big issue. Women have to be mindful. And let me share my story. I'm single, so I have a friend, but I'm not in a living with somebody. I'm not married. That's both a curse and a blessing all at once. And it's a curse because you don't have that person to be there with you, to a shoulder to cry on, somebody to help you out. But the same token is you don't have the responsibility to care for another person's feelings, their emotional, their sexual needs, whatever have you, while you're going to a very difficult time. The medicine, the side effects is so horrible, is that not only does it take that you maybe don't be able to perform, but it takes your desire to perform. You don't even want it. I mean, that's just how crazy it is. But people are going through this, and families are going through this, and they're suffering, and they're divorcing. We got to find a way. And I encourage people to check on the internet for support groups for women. You know, even if the men won't go, that will deal with and understand what this guy is going through. And I encourage men to come together and talk about those issues. But we got to have a place, got to have a safe place for both parties to come and go through this together and understand that not the only people that are going through there is light at the end of the tunnel. And it's not a train, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. And I think it's a major issue for couples, married couples and partner couples, of this particular issue, because it is an issue that affects the intimacy of the man. And they, you know, if only thing they know is to be the prowess and be this strong man, and then somehow they reduce, your words could make it worse if you don't understand this. And we have to be creative. Men have to be creative in saying, listen, my partner still needs touch, physical touch, and there's certain, you know, we look at what can I do? If I can't do this, can I do this? And that would maybe suffice. But if I'm not talking to my partner, I don't know what she's going through, because I'm going through, and I think I'm the only person involved here. But prostate cancer is a family. It affects the kids, the wife, the partner, whoever. And so I think we have to look at that in terms of trying to find ways to talk about those issues and help the family, particularly as it relates to the husband and the wife situation.
Well, Lamont, we are at the end of our webinar. I can't thank you enough. You have so much energy and sincerity, and you just bring a perspective to this conversation that is desperately needed. I appreciate you. I am so thankful that you said yes when I asked you if you would do this. You are making a difference. I'm telling you, the things in the chat, the questions that are coming to my phone, people are very, very interested. And I thank you so much. I appreciate you. Any last words you'd like to say before we log off?
Please, yes. Thank you for having me, and please join us on this journey. You can visit the website at knowyournumbers.dc.com and join us and participate in what we're doing. And we're in it for the long haul, but I want to make a difference, and I want to have strong families, want to have strong Black men, and I think that we have a chance to help out in this arena. So I'm thank you for inviting me to be a part of it.
You're welcome. You are welcome. You're welcome. I look forward to seeing you later this month.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.